This is a Pele Media podcast.
Welcome back to Goonies Minute, everybody. Goonies Minute is the fan podcast where we carefully explore the movie Goonies minute by minute. This is Brady.
And this is Chris.
And today we are here to go over minute number 56. You want to get into the minute?
I think we should get into the minute.
All right. In the previous minute, the Goonies identified the skeleton as Chester Copperpot. Mikey took the skeleton key from Chester Copperpot and put it around his neck. At minute 56, Mikey notices a string running across the floor. He calls everyone's attention to it as he begins to lift it up. Suddenly the string stops. Mikey has triggered a contraption that will release boulders overhead one by one. Everyone makes a run for it as each boulder comes crashing down right behind them. Mikey, Mouth, and Bran take cover in a small opening in the wall. Andy, Steph, and Data barely make it past the final boulder as they make it safely to the others. And thus ends minute 56 of the Goonies. So, this minute kind of surprises me in that Mikey picks up the tripwire. And he's like, hey guys, check this out. Take a look at this. Starts pulling it up. And then sort of One-Eyed Willie's version of the Rube Goldberg contraption goes into effect. Like we saw open up Mikey's gate earlier.
Right.
Which was interesting. But you would think that Mikey would be cautious enough to say, like, okay, we got something unusual here. Let's investigate this a little bit before we get excited and I just pull this thing up.
You would think.
You would think.
And this is, for the last good bit in this movie, he has acted like he would be that careful. Okay? This is a slip-up where he's a kid again. And
that's right, yeah.
He's back to being a kid, and he loses focus for a little bit. I have a bigger question.
Okay.
How in the world was this thing reset? Or is it a different, or is it like a second contraption? Because we see that one of those giant things, rocks, crushed Chester Copperpot, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So either somebody reset it, or that was a separate one, which I have to believe it has to be a separate one. Because if you look at the way there's an obvious way out, which is where they jump up to get out. So, because I think in any of these things, I think One-Eyed Willie is giving them a way out,
Which would have had to have been the case if someone was going to be going the other way to eventually get out.
Right.
With the map.
So they've got that. So it has to be. It just has to be one that hasn't.
I think so. Or maybe each of them had their own separate tripwire, and then at the end there was one, like an extra bonus tripwire.
Well, I mean,
just to be safe.
If that's one tripwire that set them all. Yeah, but I see what you're saying. But it's definitely nobody reset that.
Yeah,
and that's what I
clearly
used to think is like, how did that happen? But it just has to be a separate.
I mean, One-Eyed Willie is not an idiot, and I could only imagine he's going to put down multiple tripwires just to make sure whoever's coming through there is going to get crushed. So yeah, I think you're right. It just has to be
definitely. But what was the Indiana Jones movie where they had the giant ball rock, like the giant
Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Okay, this would kind of remind me of that, where
Totally.
This is totally kind of reminded me of that.
Absolutely. It's almost like it's lifted out of an Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
Completely.
But it's a great scene. I kind of like it.
Absolutely.
I think it fits well for what's going on when we're talking about booby traps and preventing somebody from getting somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it works. It definitely works well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I noticed something else, too. This movie does a really good job of balancing tension with calm. And in between each of these, and yet it moves right along. Like after, we'll get into that in the next minute. But there's a moment here where they take some time to, we've seen them kind of dealing with the Chester Copperpot thing. And then Data goes and is doing his thing down at the end of the hallway. And, suddenly this goes off. So I want to get back to the Rube Goldberg similarity here between what Mikey has set up to open his front gate. And the fact that it just kind of further emphasizes the fact that he and One-Eyed Willie are on par with each other intellectually. He is the modern One-Eyed Willie, so to speak. And there's it's not a coincidence that Donner would make One-Eyed Willie's Rube Goldberg contraption mirror Mikey's, or the other way around, as well as he has. And so the fact that Mikey is almost outsmarted by One-Eyed Willie's traps But
it's pretty cool the way they worked that.
It's pretty cool the way they worked that out, and it's just further emphasizing, and yet subtly, so the fact that Mikey is the modern One-Eyed Willie, and will eventually outsmart him. So, it's. I really like one of the things I really like about this scene in terms of its action is the fact that it's they're using handheld camera work, and that's rarely seen in the Goonies. Most of it is stationary, but a lot of the stuff of the kids running by, Andy and Steph have to run by and they're avoiding the rocks. A couple other shots, and it just, I mean, it's handheld. It's a handheld action sequence, so it's just really, really driving it home. So that's all I have for this minute. What about you?
That's all I have, Brady.
Great. All right. Well, the next 2 minutes get really, really, really interesting, so I'm really looking forward to the next 2 days. So on that note, we will see everybody back here tomorrow for minute number 57. And until then, this is Brady.
And this is Chris.
And we're here to remind you that Goonies never say die. Goonies Minute is a fan-supported podcast. If you like the show, then leave us a review on iTunes. You can find us at GooniesMinute.com, Facebook.com/GooniesMinute, Twitter.com/GooniesMinute, and at Instagram at GooniesMinute. You can contact us at GooniesMinute@gmail.com. You've been listening to a Pele Media podcast. For premium content and exclusive podcasts, visit us at Patreon.com/Pele Media. Check us out on Facebook at Facebook.com/Pele Media, and follow us on Twitter at Twitter.com/Pele Media.